Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to talk about the rise of the Hypercrit. And okay, so let me explain something. All right, when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons, there's the Dungeon Master. I don't need to explain that to you. Everybody knows what that is, right? Then I think there's three layers on the other side. Okay, there's the Dungeons and Dragons player. These are near worthless, horrible table sitters. They do close to nothing. They say close to nothing. They do close to nothing of significance. They say close to nothing of significance. They're goblin chopping seat lumps. They're not worthless. They're just near worthless. Okay, Dungeons and Dragons player. Okay, then there's a Dragon Master. The Dragon Master is someone who is like, okay, I am going to complete this character sheet. I understand that this character sheet is a social contract with me, with the character itself, with the player character itself, with every other Dragon Master at this table, every other player at this table, right? There's a difference between a Dungeons and Dragons player and a Dragon Master. Dragon Master is a fully engaged, enlightened Dungeons and Dragons, air quotes, player. They're no longer a player, okay? So you have the Dragon Master, okay? And what I want to talk about today is the Hypercrit, okay? Hypercrit, what are you talking about, Scott? Well, it's close to a hypocrite. And you're like, well, wait a second, hypocrites are bad. Well, if you're ignorant. So what does hypocrite actually mean? The word hypocrite means mask, okay? And it actually historically has represented the mask, and it comes from acting, right? And back in the old days, actors would literally when acting started, they put on a mask, right? And they're like, oh, and then the word for mask was hypocrite, right? Now, and why does that have a bad connotation today? Well, Hollywood and most acting organizations, extended acting organizations are, most extended acting organizations are very, it's important to understand, yeah, they're, so, sorry. Okay. So basically so what did Hollywood do with the mask? They did horrible things, just horrible things. And I think I would say that Hollywood is 51% evil, 49% good. Like, I love Hollywood. I love the stories that they make, and they're incredibly powerful, right? But they do absolutely abominable things. For decades, there was this discussion of, hey, we really think you guys are objectifying women. Most of the time when you put women, often when you put women on the screen, you'll say, hey, take your clothes off. Often when you put women on the screen, they're treated as objects. You're objectifying them. And Hollywood looked at this. And then there was an actual conversation where Hollywood was like, yeah, you're right. We've been objectifying these women. Let's fix that problem. Hey, everybody, we're objectifying men now. They're taking their clothes off too, right? Is it problem fixed? You're like, no, man, 51% evil. No, this is absolutely terrible. You don't have any idea what you're doing, right? And it's horrible. It's horrible, right? And so that's why, the public is like, oh, you're a hypocrite. You wear a mask and you lie, right? And you're evil. But the reality is, what I think is, we have to understand, mask is a tool. It's not inherently evil. A hypocrite, a mask, is not necessarily a bad thing. We do understand it as bad in American parlance, right? But I want to talk about the hypercrit, okay? So we have these Dungeons and Dragons participants beyond the Dungeon Master. We have the near worthless Dungeons and Dragons player, right? There's a few sitting around. You're never going to find a Dungeons and Dragons player at my table. I don't abide them, right? Like I'm not here for that, right? You want to chop goblins? There's a million Dungeon Masters who accomplish nothing with you, and the highest goal of the entire table is to have fun, right? Like that's not what you're going to find at any of my tables, right? Then you get the Dragon Master, this engaged, enlightened Dungeons and Dragons participant, right, who has a player character, right? Then, where I think we're heading, and I don't know if we have one yet, but we definitely have this concept now, is the hypercrit, right? What is the hypercrit? So the idea that on February 7th, in 1974, day one of Dungeons and Dragons, Gary Gygax drops Dungeons and Dragons, and he's like, hey, identity You can achieve manifold sentience with this. You can live in 30 different identities, each with its own emotions, its own thoughts, its own memories, its own sensations, its own experiences, right? You're manifold sentient at this point, right? The hypercrit is the person who understands that the mask has incredible value and the mask has incredible power, right? Hypocrites are people who pretend and lie. Hypercrits are people who inhabit and improve, right? They're improving themselves, they're improving everyone at the table, and they're improving everyone in the world. They are raising the standard of narrative for humanity, and they are spreading, and they're saying Hollywood is 51% evil, 49% good. Gary Gygax transformed narrative on February 7th, 1974. And I can use the mask, I can use these identities to accomplish 51% good and 49% evil, right? To flip it for the first time. Near worthless Dungeons & Dragons player. Incredibly valuable Dragon Master. The future of Dungeons & Dragons Dragon Masters. Hypercrit. In my humble opinion, that's the future. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.